Welcome back to the weekly recap of NFL games. This week is week 13 of the 2024-2025 NFL season. All 32 teams played this week, so there were no teams on bye. Let me know in the comments below, who do you guys think will win the matchups in week 14? And if you like this type of content, like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out, and I appreciate all the support as we are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. So without further ado, let's get straight into this one and cap it off with our Thanksgiving games. There were 3 games on Thanksgiving Day, with the first one being a NFC North divisional matchup between the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears, in which the Lions beat the Bears 23-20. The Lions are now 11-1, while the Bears fall to 4-8. After their 4-2 start, they dropped 6 straight, leading to the firing of Matt Eberflus. Caleb Williams went 20 for 39 with 256 yards and 3 touchdowns, while Caleb Williams also led the team in rushing with 39 yards. DJ Moore led the team in receiving with 97 yards and a touchdown, while Keenan Allen had 2 touchdowns on the day as well. Jared Goff went 21 for 34 with 221 yards and 2 touchdowns, while David Montgomery led the team in rushing with 88 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown led the team in receiving with 73 yards on the day. The Lions scored the first 16 points of the game, taking a 16-0 lead heading into halftime. The Bears then got the ball to start off the second half, and the score was 7-16, while the Lions scored a touchdown, which was followed by a Bears touchdown, which made it 13-23. The Bears then scored a touchdown on their second to last drive, and on the final drive, they had 1 timeout remaining, but Matt Eberflus didn't call it, and it was a major top clock mismanagement by the Bears team on that final drive. The second Thanksgiving game of the day was between the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants, which is a NFC East divisional matchup in which the Cowboys beat the Giants 27-20. The Cowboys are 5-7, while the Giants fall to 2-10. Drew Lock started for the Giants, going 21 for 32 with 178 yards and an interception. Drew Lock also led the team in rushing with 57 yards and a rushing touchdown, while Tyrone Tracy Jr. also had a touchdown on the day. Malik Neighbors led the team in receiving with 69 yards. Cooper Rush started for the Cowboys, going 21 for 36 with 195 yards and a touchdown, while Rico Dowdle led the team in rushing with 112 yards and a touchdown. Kevontae Turpin also led the team in receiving with 53 yards, while Brandon Cooks also had a touchdown on the day. The Cowboys scored the first points of the game with a field goal on the opening drive, which was then followed up by a Giants touchdown and then a Cowboys field goal, and then the Cowboys then got a pick 6 to take a 13-7 lead. Heading into halftime, Dallas had a 13-10 lead over the Giants and then scored a touchdown on the first 2 opening drives to take a 27-10 lead over the Giants. The Giants then scored a field goal and then a touchdown on their final drive to give us the final score of 20-7. The final game of Thanksgiving Day was between the Green Bay Packers and the Miami Dolphins, in which the Packers beat the Dolphins 30-17. The Packers are now 9-3, while the Dolphins fall to 5-7. Tua Tagovailoa went 37 for 46 with 365 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Raheem Mostert led the team in rushing with 19 yards. Jonnu Smith led the team in receiving with 113 yards, while Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane each had a touchdown on the day. Jordan Love went 21 for 28 with 274 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Josh Jacobs led the team in rushing with 43 yards and a touchdown. Tucker Kraft led the team in receiving with 78 yards, while Jaden Reed had 2 touchdowns on the day. The Packers opened up the scoring with a touchdown on their second drive, and then followed it up with another touchdown, and then it was followed up by a Dolphins field goal to make it 13-14. Heading into halftime, the Packers held a 24-3 lead over the Dolphins. The Packers then scored a field goal on their first drive of the second half, and then it was followed up by a Dolphins touchdown to give us a score of 11-27. The Packers then scored a field goal, which pushed it up to 30-11, and then the Dolphins scored a touchdown to give us the final score of 17-30. The next game of the week was a Black Friday game between two AFC West division opponents, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Las Vegas Raiders. The Chiefs beat the Raiders 19-17. The Chiefs are now 11-1, while the Raiders fall to 2-10. Aiden O'Connell went 23 for 35 with 340 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Sincere McCormick led the team in rushing with 64 yards on the day. Brock Bowers led the team in receiving with 140 yards and a touchdown, while Trey Tucker also had a touchdown on the day as well. Patrick Mahomes went 26 for 46 with 306 yards and a touchdown, while Isaiah Pacheco led the team in rushing with 44 yards on the day. DeAndre Hopkins led the team in receiving with 90 yards, while Justin Watson had a touchdown on the day as well. The Chiefs opened up the scoring with a field goal on their opening drive, which was then followed up by a Raiders field goal to tie it up at 3. Heading into halftime, the score was 10-3 with the Chiefs in the lead. The Chiefs opened up the second half with a field goal taking a 13-3 lead, followed by another field goal, which was then followed up by 2 consecutive Raiders touchdowns, giving the Raiders a 17-16 lead over the Chiefs. And then the Raiders missed a field goal and fumbled the ball on the final drive of the game, which gave the Chiefs the final possession and allowed them to escape with the victory. The next game of the week was between the Los Angeles Chargers and the Atlanta Falcons, in which the Chargers beat the Falcons 17-13. The Chargers are now 8-4, while the Falcons fall to 6-6. Justin Herbert went 16 for 23 with 147 yards, while Gus Edwards led the team in rushing with 32 yards on the day. Ladd McConkey led the team in receiving with 117 yards, while Kirk Cousins went 24 for 39 with 245 yards, no touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Bijan Robinson led the team in rushing with 102 yards and a touchdown, while Ray McCloud led the team in receiving with 95 yards on the day. The opening points of the game were scored by a Falcons touchdown on their second drive, which was then followed up by 2 consecutive Chargers field goals, making it 6-7. And on the final drive of the first half, the Chargers scored a field goal to take a 9-7 lead heading into halftime. On the first drive of the second half for the Falcons, they scored a field goal to take a 10-9 lead over the Chargers. And on the next Falcons drive, it was Kirk Cousins who threw a pick six to the rookie Tarheeb Still as the Chargers took a 17-10 lead over the Falcons, and they scored a 2-point conversion to get that 7-point lead. It was then followed up a Falcons field goal to make it 17-13. No teams could score after that point as the Chargers held on to that victory. The next game of the week was between the Los Angeles Rams and the New Orleans Saints, in which the Rams beat the Saints 21-14. The Rams are now 6-6, while the Saints fall to 4-8. Matthew Stafford went 14 for 24 with 183 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Kyren Williams led the team in rushing with 104 yards and a touchdown. Puka Nacua led the team in receiving with 56 yards and a touchdown, while Demarcus Robinson also had a touchdown on the day. Derek Carr went 24 for 37 with 184 yards and a touchdown, while Alvin Kamara led the team in rushing with 112 yards. Taysom Hill led the team in receiving with 37 yards, while Marquez Valdez-Scantling also had a touchdown on the day. The Saints opened up the scoring with a field goal on the opening drive, and on the final drive of the first half scored another field goal to take a 6-0 lead heading into halftime. The Rams got the ball to start off the second half and scored a touchdown to take a 7-6 lead, and then later on the Rams scored a touchdown to take a 14-6 lead over the Saints, which was then followed up by a Saints touchdown, but they failed to get the 2-point conversion, so the Rams led 14-12. The Rams then scored another touchdown to take a 21-14 lead over the Saints, in which they carried all the way to the end to the victory. The next game of the week was between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Baltimore Ravens. The Eagles beat the Ravens 24-19. The Eagles are now 10-2, while the Ravens fall to 8-5. Jalen Hurts went 11 for 19 with 118 yards and a touchdown, while Saquon Barkley led the team in rushing with 107 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Hurts also had a rushing touchdown on the day. A.J. Brown led the team in receiving with 66 yards, while Dallas Goedert also had a touchdown on the day. Lamar Jackson went 23 for 36 with 237 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Derrick Henry led the team in rushing with 82 yards on the day. Zay Flowers led the team in receiving with 74 yards, while both Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely each had a touchdown on the day. The opening points were scored by the Ravens on their opening drive with a field goal, and then they scored a touchdown, but Justin Tucker missed the extra point, which gave the Ravens a 9-0 lead over the Eagles. And in the second quarter, the Eagles scored a touchdown to make it 17-9 and scored another touchdown to make it 14-9. And on the final drive of the first half, the Ravens scored a field goal as Philadelphia took a 14-12 lead heading into halftime. And Justin Tucker missed a lot of field goals on the day, as in the second half, the Eagles scored a touchdown to take a 21-12 lead over the Ravens, and then scored a field goal to make it a 2-possession game late in the fourth quarter as they took a 24-12 lead. The Ravens then scored a touchdown to give us the final score of 24-19. The next game of the week was a AFC North divisional matchup between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Bengals 44-38. The Steelers are now 9-3, while the Bengals fall to 4-8. Russell Wilson went 29 for 38 with 414 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception, while Najee Harris led the team in rushing with 75 yards and a touchdown. George Pickens led the team in receiving with 74 yards and a touchdown, while Pat Freiermuth also had a touchdown on the day. Joe Burrow went 28 for 38 with 309 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception, while Chase Brown led the team in rushing with 70 yards and a touchdown on the day. Jamar Chase led the team in receiving with 86 yards and a touchdown, while T. Higgins and Andre Iosivas each had a touchdown on the day. The scoring opened up with a pick six on Russell Wilson as Cincinnati took a 7-0 lead. The Steelers answered right back with multiple touchdowns as it was a shootout, and heading into halftime, the score was 27-21 with the Steelers in the lead. On the first drive of the second half, the Bengals scored a field goal to make it 27-24, which was then followed up by a Steelers touchdown as they took a 10-point 34-24 lead over the Bengals. And then there was a fumble touchdown return by the Pittsburgh Steelers defense as they took a 41-24 lead over the Bengals. The Bengals would try and mount a comeback as they scored 2 touchdowns on their final 2 drives, which gave us the final score of 44-38. The next game of the week was between the Minnesota Vikings and the Arizona Cardinals, in which the Vikings beat the Cardinals 23-22. The Vikings are now 10-2, while the Cardinals fall to 6-6. Kyler Murray went 31 for 45 with 260 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions, while James Conner led the team in rushing with 68 yards on the day. Trey McBride led the team in receiving with 96 yards, while Marvin Harrison Jr. had a touchdown on the day. Sam Darnold went 21 for 31 with 235 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Sam Darnold also led the team in rushing with Cam Akers and Aaron Jones with each 22 yards apiece. Justin Jefferson led the team in receiving with 99 yards, while both Johnny Munt and Aaron Jones had a touchdown each receiving. The first points of the game were scored with a Cardinals field goal on their opening drive, followed up by a Vikings field goal as well. It was a field goal fest in the first half as Arizona had a 9-6 lead. The Cardinals then scored a field goal on their opening drive of the second half, taking a 12-6 lead over the Vikings, and then followed up by a touchdown on their next drive as they took a 19-6 lead over the Vikings. The Vikings then answered with a touchdown of their own, which cut it down 19-13, and then the Vikings scored another field goal to make it 19-16. Cardinals answered with a field goal of their own, making it 22-16. The Vikings then scored a touchdown, making it 23-23 as they held on and picked off Kyler Murray on the final Cardinals drive. The next game of the week was between the Indianapolis Colts and the New England Patriots, in which the Colts beat the Patriots 25-24. The Colts are now 6-7, while the Patriots fall to 3-10. Anthony Richardson went 12 for 24 with 109 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, while Jonathan Taylor led the team in rushing with 96 yards. Anthony Richardson also had a touchdown on the ground, while Michael Pittman Jr. led the team in receiving with 42 yards. Both Alec Pierce and Jonathan Taylor had a receiving touchdown each on the day. Drake May went 24 for 30 with 238 yards, a touchdown, and an interception, while Ramondre Stevenson led the team in rushing with 73 yards. Antonio Gibson had a touchdown on the ground as well. Hunter Henry led the team in receiving with 75 yards, while Austin Hooper had a touchdown on the day as well. The scoring opened on the opening drive with a Patriots field goal, which was then followed up by a Colts touchdown, a Patriots field goal, 2 of them in a row, and a Colts touchdown, and then a Patriots touchdown. Heading into halftime, New England held a 16-14 lead over the Colts, and the Colts got the ball to open up the second half as they scored a field goal and took a 17-16 lead over the Patriots. The Patriots then scored a touchdown, taking a 24-17 lead over the Colts, and on the final Colts drive of the game, they scored a touchdown and decided to go for the 2-point conversion as they won 25-24. The next game of the week was between the Seattle Seahawks and the New York Jets, in which the Seahawks beat the Jets 26-21. The Seahawks are now 7-5, while the Jets fall to 3-9. Geno Smith went 20 for 31 with 206 yards and a touchdown, while Kenneth Walker led the team in rushing with 49 yards. Zach Charbonnet had a rushing touchdown on the day, while Jackson Smith-Njigba led the team in receiving with 74 yards, and A.J. Barner had a touchdown on the day as well. Aaron Rodgers went 21 for 39 with 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Breece Hall led the team in rushing with 60 yards on the day, while Davante Adams led the team in receiving with 66 yards and a touchdown. Isaiah Davis also had a touchdown on the day as well. The score opened up with a Jets touchdown as they took a 6-0 lead and then scored another touchdown to take a 14-0 lead over the Seahawks. The Seahawks then answered with a touchdown of their own, followed up by a Jets touchdown, and then the Seahawks scored with a Leonard Williams pick six as the score was 13-12 in favor of the Jets, and then the Seahawks scored a field goal before the end of the first half as the score was in favor of the Jets 21-16. heading into halftime. The Seahawks then scored a field goal to make it 19-21, and then a touchdown on the following drive as they took a 26-21 lead and took it all the way home for a victory. The next game of the week was between the Washington Commanders and the Tennessee Titans, in which the Commanders beat the Titans 42-19. The Commanders are now 8-5, while the Titans fall to 3-9. Will Levis went 18 for 37 with 212 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Tony Pollard led the team in rushing with 35 yards. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine led the team in receiving with 61 yards and 2 touchdowns on the day. Jaden Daniels went 25 for 30 with 206 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception, while Robinson Jr. led the team in rushing with 103 yards and a touchdown. Chris Rodriguez Jr. and Jaden Daniels each had a touchdown rushing as well. Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, led the team in receiving with 73 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Zach Ertz also had a touchdown on the day as well. The Commanders opened up the scoring with 3 consecutive touchdowns, taking a 21-0 lead over the Titans, and then followed it up with another touchdown to take a 28-0 lead over the Titans in the first half. And then on the final Titans drive of the first half, they scored a touchdown to make it 28-7. The Titans then scored a field goal on their first drive and second drive, and then it was followed up by a Commanders touchdown as it was 35-13. The Titans then scored another touchdown towards the end of the game as the score was 35-19. And just for good measure, on the second to last drive of the game, the Commanders scored a touchdown to give us the final score of 42-19. The next game of the week was a AFC South divisional matchup between the Houston Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Texans beat the Jaguars 23-20. The Texans are now 8-5, while the Jaguars fall to 2-10. CJ Stroud went 22 for 34 with 242 yards and a touchdown, while Joe Mixon led the team in rushing with 101 yards and a touchdown. Nico Collins led the team in receiving with 119 yards, and Dalton Schultz had a touchdown on the day. Trevor Lawrence got hurt very early on by the dirty hit by Azeez Al-Shaair, and Mac Jones took over as he went 20 for 32 with 235 yards and 2 touchdowns. Travis Etienne Jr. led the team in rushing with 46 yards, while Parker Washington led the team in receiving with 103 yards and a touchdown. Brian Thomas Jr. also had a touchdown on the day as well. It was a punt fest to begin the game, and the opening points were scored by a Texans field goal, and heading into halftime, the Texans had a 6-3 lead over the Jaguars. On the opening drive of the second half, the Jaguars scored a field goal to tie it up at 6, which was then followed up by a Texans touchdown as they took a 13-6 lead, and then the Texans scored another field goal and another touchdown to take a 23-6 lead. The Jaguars then followed it up with 2 consecutive touchdowns as the final score was 23-20 in favor of the Texans. The next game of the week was a NFC South divisional matchup between the Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, in which the Buccaneers beat the Panthers 26-23 in overtime. The Buccaneers are now 6-6, while the Panthers fall to 3-9. Baker Mayfield went 21 for 33 with 235 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions, while Bucky Irving led the team in rushing with 152 yards and a touchdown. Mike Evans led the team in receiving with 118 yards and a touchdown on the day. Bryce Young went 26 for 46 with 298 yards and a touchdown, while Chuba Hubbard led the team in rushing with 43 yards. Bryce Young also had a rushing touchdown on the day. Adam Thielen led the team in receiving with 99 yards and a touchdown on the day as well. The opening points were scored by the Buccaneers with the touchdown, which was then followed up by a Panthers field goal, and heading into halftime, Carolina had a 13-10 lead over the Buccaneers, and late in the second half, the Panthers scored a field goal to take a 16-10 lead over the Buccaneers, which was then followed up by a Buccaneers touchdown as they took a 17-16 lead over the Panthers, which was then followed up by a field goal by the Buccaneers as they took a 20-16 lead over the Panthers. And on the final drive for the Panthers in regulation, they scored a touchdown to take a 23-20 lead over the Buccaneers, and Chase McLaughlin tied it up at 23 to take it into overtime. The Buccaneers got the ball to start off overtime period and missed a field goal. The Panthers then fumbled in field goal territory, and Chase McLaughlin redeemed himself, scoring a walk-off field goal as the Buccaneers won 26-23. The next game of the week was Sunday Night Football between the San Francisco 49ers and the Buffalo Bills in snowy Orchard Park. The Buffalo Bills beat the Niners 35-10. The Bills are now 10-2, while the 49ers fall to 5-7. Brock Purdy went 11 for 18 with 94 yards, while Jordan Mason led the team in rushing with 78 yards. Isaac Guerendo had a touchdown on the day, and Christian McCaffrey, if his season couldn't get any worse, got injured once again. Jawan Jennings led the team in receiving with 56 yards on the day. Josh Allen went 13 for 17 with 148 yards and 2 touchdowns, while James Cook led the team in rushing with 107 yards and a touchdown. Both Ray Davis and Josh Allen each had a rushing touchdown. Dawson Knox led the team in receiving with 56 yards, while both Matt Collins and Josh Allen each had a receiving touchdown. The fun fact was Josh Allen threw a touchdown pass to himself after that nice improvised lateral play in the red zone. The scoring opened up with a San Francisco 49er field goal, and that was the only points they could score in the first half, as Buffalo had a 21-3 lead over the 49ers. The Buffalo Bills then poured on as they pulled out the victory in the snow 35-10 over the San Francisco 49ers. The final game of the week was Monday Night Football between the Denver Broncos and the Cleveland Browns, in which the Broncos beat the Browns 41-32. The Broncos are now 8-5, while the Browns fall to 3-9. Jameis Winston went 34 for 58 with 497 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Jerome Ford led the team in rushing with 41 yards on the day, while Jerry Jeudy led the team in receiving with 235 yards and a touchdown. David Njoku had 2 touchdowns on the day, and Nick Chubb had a touchdown receiving as well. Bo Nix went 18 for 35 with 294 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions, while Jaleel McLaughlin led the team in rushing with 84 yards. Both Michael Burton and Javonte Williams each had a touchdown on the ground. Marvin Mims Jr. led the team in receiving with 105 yards and a touchdown on the day. The opening points were scored by a Broncos touchdown, and heading into halftime, Denver had a 21-17 lead over the Browns, and then to open up the second half scoring, the Broncos scored on their second drive to take a 28-17 lead, which was then followed up by a Cleveland Browns touchdown and 2-point conversion, as the score was 28-25. The Broncos then scored a field goal to take a 31-25 lead over the Browns, and then the Browns scored a touchdown, taking a 32-31 lead over the Broncos. The Broncos then scored a field goal right after to take a 34-32 lead over the Browns, and then Jameis Winston threw a pick six as Denver made it 41-32 and a 2-possession game late in the fourth quarter. And on the final drive for the Browns, Jameis Winston threw a pick to end the game and seal a Broncos victory over the Browns here in Week 13. Let me know in the comments below what games surprised you, what results surprised you, and who do you guys think will win in the Week 14 matchups. Let me know in the comments below. If you like this type of content, like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out, and I appreciate all the support as we are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. If you're a fan of the NFL and college football, stay tuned as we'll be covering both all season long. Appreciate all the support, and we'll catch you in the next one. Take care.